Good evening, this is Angela with Parker's Permaculture. I'm standing down in the back of my orchard in my permaculture garden here in Portland, Oregon. My husband and one of my sons are doing a woodworking project back here in the backyard, so there may be some sawing noise in this video. I want to talk about this little tree behind me, which is actually two trees planted in one hole, which is a strategy I use because I have a small garden and I want to grow as much as possible. So when I have trees where you need two different varieties in order to set fruit, I often plant them both in one hole and grow them as if they were one plant. For me, that's easier than grafting. So the tree behind me is Ziziphus jujuba, also known as the jujube or jujube, or the red date or Chinese date. It is a crop that is not super commonly grown in North American gardens, and it takes a little bit of special care, and also it takes a little bit of adjustment to work this plant into your diet, but it produces two unique crops, one in the form of the fresh fruit and the other in the form of the dried fruit. They are two entirely different things. Much like a grape is not particularly like a raisin or a fresh plum like a prune, these are two distinct crops you can get out of one plant. So let me talk a little bit about the needs and growth habit of this plant, as well as how to utilize the harvest. Here you can see my two jujube trees tucked in under my fig trees and growing next to some apples. Jujubes can tolerate a fair amount of shade, although they grow much larger and produce a larger crop in full sun. Being in the buckthorn family, the jujube tolerates a wide range of soil conditions and is actually quite salt tolerant. Here you can see the little inflorescences, the buds and the flowers. They start out green and then open up to a teeny tiny yellow blossom. As I said in the beginning, jujubes set much better fruit if you have two different varieties. I've noticed that bees and wasps both serve as pollinators for this plant. Here you can see the young jujubes. These little egg-shaped green immature fruit will grow to be 1 to 3 inches in size. Jujube trees can reach 15 to 30 feet at maturity and can be grown as a single-trunked tree or a multi-stemmed shrub. The teeny inconspicuous blossoms don't show themselves until late July in my climate, which means that the fruit are mature in late October to early November. I think one of the reasons that this fruit hasn't caught on in the American consumer market is that the mature fresh fruit is not particularly attractive. It's greenish yellow with brown splotches. The fruit has the best flavor when it has this mottled appearance of both colors. Folks will tell you that jujubes are reminiscent of apples, and they do have an apple-like flavor when fresh, but the flesh itself is much drier, so it does take some getting used to. While it may be called a red date, the dried jujube actually has very little resemblance to a date. The outside skin is papery and somewhat unpleasant, but the flesh inside is dry and fluffy, almost like a marshmallow, but with a strong flavor of maple syrup. In Korea, they actually enjoy it as a drink. Pour boiling water over the dried jujubes, and the resulting tea is sweet and refreshing. So thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please click like and consider subscribing. I also have a Patreon in the description if you are interested in supporting this channel on a monthly basis. I'll be back tomorrow with more about permaculture, sustainable organic food production, and resilient living. Thanks.